I was gonna say, like with my dad, he's 76 now, but I see the quality of his health um had declined a lot after he divorced his second wife. Um because at the very least he was going to at least yearly exams, sometimes more if she saw something, be like, you need to go to the doctor for that, and she'll just set the appointment and be like, oh, you have an appointment at such and such a time. But after he's divorced, he he just don't really go unless, like, is a situation where he has to, like, there's in no denying, like, I need to go because my pinky falling off or something like that. Like, it has to be to the extreme before he actually goes. And I remember I went with him to the doctor one time, because his car was broke down, so he was forced to ask somebody to take him. And I spoke to the doctor, and the doctor was like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while, where he was telling us that he had been going. So found out that he wasn't really going. Um, and then, like with my husband, I I go with him and he allows me to come in a room with him. Um, and he is like a love hate kind of situation, because he's like what Lewis said, where they won't ask questions, won't ask follow-up questions, just listen to what the doctor says and say, oh, okay, doctor say you need to, okay, and that's it. But I'm sitting here and I'm like, asking questions, and then the doctor might ask him something, he'd be like, nah, and I'm like, nope, that's not true, is that it? And I'm running down everything, and he's looking and he's just like telling everything. I was like, that's what you're supposed to do, because he's not going to know. Some of this stuff goes in a chart depending on what medication you're taking. You don't know what kind of side effects it's having. So he appreciates it, but he's just like, man, you just be telling everything.
Yeah. I think the same thing with my father. He actually passed at 49, because
Mhm.
he hated going to the doctor, and he started having uh what do you call them? Not a heart attack, but
A
Palpitations.
stroke.
a stroke. He kept having many strokes, and he was just putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and didn't want to go. Took my younger siblings to school, came back, and he finally had to go. He waited till his wife got home and she made him go to the hospital. And that's actually how he ended up passing, because
Mhm.
he ended up having another stroke and he waited so long. But I know in my family, a lot of the men hate going to the doctors. They don't want to hear what the doctor has to say. They don't want to hear anything bad. And like Louise was saying, I think it comes from a place of fear with Black men. But we, as the women, in the family, are always trying to push them and say, well, we can keep these things from happening or getting worse if you actually went more often and we figured out what was going on. We literally just had to do the same thing that Miss Taken was talking about with her husband or father with my grandfather. He went into a diabetic shock, and we had to rush him to the hospital and sit there and tell them all the things that was wrong with him, and he was so upset that he had to stay there. But it's like, they're helping you need to be here, and
Mm.
had you already been coming, maybe you wouldn't have to be here in the first place.
Do men find it like emasculating to have health transparency among your household and with your physician? Is that really what the core of the problem is? Like
I
what is it? Like I
I
don't
I
know.
think there's a bit of that. I think there's a bit of that. I think there is also the illusion or the iconography of idea that you're supposed to be this rock that is impenetrable,
Hmm.
right? Like for
Mm,
you to have issues early on, right? It's almost like a sign of weakness, or even like a sign of
mm,
like you failed to kind of take care of yourself. So if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of your family, right? So there's like this entire cascade effect that happens. um I I'm kind of concerned even nowadays, and I know we're gonna hammer this part, but even younger men today are having issues.
Hmm.
I'm talking about men in their
mm.
20s.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which I find baffling, because in my 20s I was doing backflips. Yeah, I was just whatever. But today it's just become poorly, and it's obviously a huge contributor. We're
The,
smoking a lot more now these days. We're drinking a lot more these days. We're partying more and resting less these days. We're too much in front of screens and not enough time in front of nature or being outside, right? COVID did a number on us in terms of our psyche, right? And I think that still perpetuates to this day. And that all plays a huge part. Not even the nutritional aspect too. Like, where do you guys shop? What do you buy? What's in your grocery store and what is in your fridge? That's a huge component that we don't talk about. It does get talked about, but just not enough. I've always said, like, the foundation of a culture has to be championed around the things that pushes everybody forward. And that has to be health. That has to be spirituality. That has to be family. That has to be a bunch of these other components that produce a much more healthy and thriving family and community.
So do you think the solution is fathers talking more to their sons about health transparency? Like how do we fix it?
I think they should be taking their sons with them to doctor's appointments, and already from the beginning breaking that fear of the relationship between the doctor and the child. I mean, because I know in a lot of situations it's the woman that takes the child to the doctors, right? Like, it's not even always that the man is there. And I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, but I know for my daughter, I make all of her doctor's appointments. Even when her father and I were together, he didn't always come to the doctor's appointments, especially once she started getting older. So I think, especially with young men, if they start doing it, it's almost like you're setting the precedent already that you're not afraid to go. It's okay. This should be normal. So it'll just, train their mind to start thinking, well, this is what we do. I need to go to the doctor. I need to get a checkup. I need to live a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, I think we live in a day and age where people are prioritizing their sexual desires over their health, right? And I say that because it just seems like sex is so easy to come by now. But then you have this group of men who are saying, well, one said he was a personal trainer and he's healthy, which has nothing to do with his sexual health. So it's like, what type of women are participating in that act with them? So women also need to take care of themselves just like the men do. So like when you know that you're gonna, you have sexual attraction to the person, I think it's better to just be upfront and say, I think we both need to get tested, just early on. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but it's just the reality of it. Everybody's giving sex away now. So it's not like it was back in the day where, you really had to wait. So you have people having multiple sex partners throughout the week now. It's just not, it's necessary. I don't even know if once a year, that's like the bare minimum. One guy said he gets tested after every relationship. Well, what if he has 12 relationships in a year? Like that's insane. So people definitely need to prioritize their sexual health. Like, it's just necessary now. I mean, it's always been necessary, but it's so many things happening. Like that outbreak of HIV in Texas recently. Did you all hear about that?
And Houston.
Yeah, like
Yeah, I'm
that's
canceling
crazy.
all my flights to Houston.
Well, you planned on having sex when you were there?
No, I was planning on going down to the museum, but
Oh, well, you'll be good.
but them heifers would jump you at the airport.
Yeah, I mean, do you all find asking people to get tested uncomfortable?